What does design mean to you guys?
Comfortable luxury.
Why does design have to be luxury?
Design is very simple. It's, in my opinion, it's very functionality means psychology meets good taste.
There's a lot of touch and feel in this industry.
What is design management? What is project management? What is a turnkey contract?
We actually do something called design management. We don't do project management.
Does passion make you money?
Chase passion before money.
Passion and money don't always go hand in hand.
I don't think no matter how large or small a project is, design is ever compromised.
How do you find your first contract? How do you find your POP guy, a painter?
He said India has a hope.
At Studio Roo, it's about understanding what your lifestyle is, but also what your aspirations are.
Hiring an interior designer was a taboo.
To bring in freshness to the interiors, you hire a professional who does just interior design.
Do you think social media has helped a lot?
I don't know how people did this before the internet.
I think it's a good thing and a bad thing.
There are lots of bidri work, tikri work, different arts and crafts. It's such a beautiful country to be in.
What do you do for keeping a work-life balance?
You have to make sure you're having a good fitness regime, a lifestyle of choice, and make that also an important thing.
Build meaningful relationships.
How do you manage so much of work? And
11 o'clock you're in bed in the night and you can't sleep because you're so excited to wake up the next day and kind of sketch something.
We were just so in this rat race of ye kar rahe to hum bhi karte hain.
A lot of our inspiration comes from our clients.
I want to make sure this client's happy. Be authentic. It's hard, but it's right. You have to live your life until you die.
How do you stay relevant in terms of design trends?
We don't. At Roo, it's not about the trends at all.
So I would like to start this whole conversation with introducing yourself, a brief on what you're doing, and something your professional circle does not know about you guys. I'll start with Kavya.
Hi, I'm Kavya Sheth, a founding partner at Studio Roo. I've been in this field for over a decade now, with education from Bangalore and Milan. Worked at some really fun design studios in Bangalore, in Milan, in Reggio Emilia, different parts of Italy, and came back possibly in 2015. And the intention of starting Studio Roo was to create spaces that can impact the lives of people very, very positively. So it's been 6 years since we established Studio Roo, and it's been such a overwhelming and fulfilling journey so far. One thing that my peers don't know was your other question. My professional peers don't know. I think a lot of people know this already, but I'm going to reiterate that about a year and a half ago, Shruthi and I got together and we're partners at Studio Roo now. So for everyone who doesn't know, it's been a year and a half of walking this journey with a beautiful life partner.
All right, perfect. Does the partner help?
Of course, yes. I mean, it's been, I think a lot of people ask us now that you have a partner, have your worries half-and. It's not really about worries becoming lesser or your problems becoming lesser. It's really to walk this path of life with a companion, right? So to celebrate your victories, to discuss any concerns that you might have, to grow your team and this larger than life vision that we both have, to be able to do that together every day has been really beautiful.
So you mentioned 10 years. It's almost 10 years you've been in the profession. So you're working in Milan for some time?
I was. I did a very interesting course, and I was, I think from when my bachelor's profession, when I started studying, that was way back in 2009, some switch in me just, clicked, and I've been a very big nerd ever since. So very high on reading, that curiosity has been so strong and so sharp that through my time in Italy, even if we ever got a break, I would not want to come back to India, or I would not want to travel and not explore design. So every chance I got, even if we had a summer break, I found an internship. When everybody else went home to their families, for me it was writing to a bunch of firms. Even if it was a 1 month break, I did a 1 month internships. I did I worked at 4 or 5 different places there, and all very different experiences. So yeah, it's been very fulfilling in the sense that every practice has a different scale. The genre of work they were doing was very different. And the longest I worked there was actually with an Australian architect who was in Reggio Emilia. It's a tiny town in the middle of Italy. And she did a lot of projects in Singapore and in Asia actually. So that was very, very fascinating. Just how she marketed herself, how she had clients, how she approached projects. And you're still bringing Italian design to different parts of the world, which was a very big learning experience for me.
How different was it? Like working in Italy, like the whole culturally, they're very different. They're very different in terms of their scheduled work. How is it different than coming back to India and working in India and starting a firm?
I think in terms of the kind of people that Italians are, there are lots of similarities to Indians, right? They're very family oriented. They love their food, culture, dance, music, which we all do here as well. One of the things, though, that's very different is there's a saying in Italian which is la dolce far niente, which is the sweetness of doing nothing, which means they take their breaks seriously, their summer breaks or their winter breaks, their holidays. If a store is supposed to close at 7 and it's an emergency, you've got there at 6:59 and the shutter's half down. In India, you want to go that extra mile and say, okay,
Ye kar do yaar, khol do yaar. Like, a little bit, ek cheez de do, like
Correct.
one thing.
I feel like in Europe in general, or in other parts of the world in general, it's more about the ethics, their punctuality. If they're closing at 7, they're closing at 7. They will apologize and ask you to come tomorrow morning. So that is a general trait that was a little bit different. But in terms of work there, I think it was just as hands-on as we are in India now. Concepts were prioritized very much. The way you mood board and present something was given very high importance. And there are lots of iconic, let's say, furniture designs or materials that they believed in and celebrated, which here I feel like in India, more than using iconic pieces, we're at a stage where a lot of focus is given to revival. We're working with Indian arts and crafts, we're working with artisans here, we're working with hand a lot more here. Things that are a little bit more modular. The design quotient is very high, but things that are a little bit more on an order basis, production basis, a little bit more streamlined. You don't have that much room to really color outside the boundaries.
But I think so. Yeah, that's what I feel. Like I personally feel when I'm not from the design background. So when I see a particular furniture being built, it's where you visualize in terms of, for example, a chair. Ergonomically, I love this chair. The comfort is great. The fabric is great. But some way or the other, we're not able to replicate the same chair which is made in Milan. Some way or the other, it's just that workmanship. Culturally, we are very different. यहाँ पे what I found personally, it's a very personal experience. It's like यहाँ पे चलता है attitude. They are okay with those margin of error. Like, okay, if there is a 10% error, they're okay with it. Right. But that 10% is only making a lot of difference in terms of making this furniture look or maybe feel or wow. In Milan, so they are maybe in Milan, and maybe I'm from Dubai, so I've seen the furnitures made in Dubai. They are so particular with every part of the whole furniture. So the product by itself is much better. So I personally feel the workmanship is very different compared to what is there abroad and what is there in India, and it's obviously it's picking up. There are a lot of companies, the furniture companies are trying to do good stuff. So yeah, I think that's the difference between what's we would have. Do you have the similar thing?
I think that an issue like that arises more often when you're trying to reproduce something. Let's say you have a reference of a chair that somebody has seen at a brand in Italy, and you're trying to reproduce that here. Of course, there will be issues because they've cracked it after a lot of R&D. They've probably made hundreds of molds before that and really got that right. And here you're expecting somebody who's been practicing furniture, maybe his father was a carpenter, or maybe you've even gone to a factory to try and reproduce something. But you can't really copy 20 years of experience that maybe another brand in Italy spent doing. However, in India, there are brands in lots of parts of Gujarat today, Delhi, Bombay, Muradabad, like tiny places in the country today where originality and the use of Indian arts and crafts, I don't even think Italy will be able to replicate. So I feel like what they're really good for, we shouldn't really replicate, and we focus on our arts and crafts and trying to push that forward a little bit more. So if we're focusing on originality here, then maybe that concern doesn't exist so much. But I agree with the chalta hai attitude. Like on site in general, places here, there's a lot more precision there, and I agree with you on that.
Because one point what you mentioned, there will be 100 molds. Oh yeah, we're trying to just figure it out in 2 molds or not even 2 molds.
With a small budget.
Yeah, with a small budget.
And a small timeline.
Yeah, so I think so that's a major difference in terms of what the product would be in Milan and probably yeah. So yeah, so to you, Shruti.
So hi, my name is Shruthi. I'm also a partner at Studio 2. My, I think, aspiration to become a designer was slightly different. I think growing up, it was a very conservative family and things like that. But my parents are very passionate people. If you look at them and if you know about them, they are your regular businessmen and like homemakers and everything. But they had a passion of collecting antiques, art, furniture, just hoarding in some sense. At that point, it felt like. But that's how my mom would layer the home and things like that, and how it kept changing. How hosting, what festivities, what India, all of these places that we talk about today, we had gone there when we were kids. The interior parts of like southern India, Muradabad, Rajasthan and everything, these were, because of the passion of my parents, our travels used to become that. So growing up itself, I had witnessed all of this and I understood what's the importance of handmade, even in terms of textile, fabrics, everything. They were very passionate about that, and then me and my sister, it kind of rubbed off.
Was it a business? Your parents were in similar business, or it's just?
It was completely different. It was just passion. We had a whole big warehouse where my dad would just collect pieces that he liked, not with the intention of selling, but just saying, "Kal nahi milega wo." ये चीज मतलब to identify even how they say कि जुआरी को पता है कि हीरा क्या होता है. To find diamond in the kachra is also an art now that I think. But to just find these nicks and knacks, knowing nobody in the industry, just asking, going to that village, going to that town, finding that right piece, understanding logistics of transportation, how to fix it, how to find which oil must have used, how old that wood is. From every part of India, how there are stories about China's and Bhutan and wood coming from everywhere, how that got mixed up. A lot of historical references. So this is the chat that we used to do at dinner.
All the time, like when you were growing up?
Yeah, while growing up. So this was very so at one point of time as a kid, you're just like, why do you have to go to a heritage place again? But now that I know of the value that brought to me subconsciously, because we were talking about it a lot, it gave me, I didn't have to refer books, let's say. This was just my book knowledge that was just transparent from my parents to me. And then at that point around when I was graduating, I think I had a very clear idea of what I want to become. And it was something in the terms of creative field.
It was like where? You 10, 15 years old? You knew you wanted to become a designer?
Yeah, I think when I was in my 7th grade, and how I know that was also interesting because I had like school friends and there was some social class apparently where the teachers asking everyone what do you want to become, and everybody's like doctor, engineer, pilot, ye wo. And I've been very specific in telling that I want to become an interior designer. This is me, 7th grade, would be like 2005 maybe, I don't know. So I forgot about that, and then when I did become and I did start and everything, there's this friend who's moved to the UK, married, all of us married and all that, and she calls me immediately when she heard the news saying, I can't believe you made your dream come true, which you had in your 7th grade. And I'm like, how do you know that? Cool, like, how do you remember? She's like, I'm so specific because you're the only one who said specifically that. So I'm just like, I don't know if this was such a clarity in my mind that time, but I would give a lot of credit to my parents for that, to bring up us in an environment like that and subconsciously playing a big part of who I am today. And still do, like my mom is my biggest critique. Like she would call out and tell me saying, I don't think that was nice. And money must have gone into it, time must have gone in it, and we have differences in terms of like just aesthetic, let's say. So if she likes it, then I'm just like, okay, she's impressed. Like that means something out of it. So these kind of, some sort of education helped in shaping the person I am today. Their passion became my profession in some sense, in a creative field and things like that. Also now I think it's also helping me dive into how creatively we can solve for stereotypical solutions, like why should we have a door? What's the reference of a wall? Why should the space feel so constrained? Why some bedrooms are like, if you visit and travel, I think Kavya and I both like to travel to some really good places. Like we do a lot of research before we travel for personal reasons to the place that we're going to stay and everything. So why is that room so small? How does that make us feel versus a larger master bedroom? Like these days people like walk-ins and her walk-ins and his walk-ins. What is the reference of that? There's a whole carbon footprint story about it, but why does one human being need so much space? What does it mentally do to him? Versus a bedroom is meant for sleeping at max for 2 people. So shouldn't your living rooms and those becomes larger spaces where you can invite and host? There's so much psychology that can run behind it. So as a practice also, we try to bring a lot of that angle to all of our projects on, like I was telling you earlier, if I have to take something, is there enough place to keep it? Where will I go it back? How will the discard of that happen? How will that product end? With Oorjaa, we're talking in these lines of how that begins to how it'll end. It's a journey of life.
So you always put functionally, like you think of design more functionally and then aesthetically, like fit aesthetics into picture.
Yeah.
It's the other way around for sometimes for us.
Like mature.
Yeah.
How mature you can be, your taste will get mature. Who you hang out with, where you travel to, what kind of food you're intaking. What is your day-to-day life? Is your lifestyle like? Is your taste? You pick a certain fabric to wear. Is your taste. Not everybody does a linen. Or not everybody would do a silk or a velvet, right? You prefer a good cashmere is because you know the value of it. It's not to impress anybody. It's because you want to feel good. And that kind of shows off in your work also.
And then professionally, after you finish your interiors, you're an architect?
I'm an architect. And then I worked I'm from Chennai, so I worked there a fair bit. I did a lot of contracting, project management, delved into the high realms of architecture. But I always wanted to start. So this was thode time ke liye, I wanted to get all the experience and moved. And then got married, moved to Bangalore, worked here a bit. And then it felt like the right market for the vision that I had in mind also. To fit in, because Chennai is still a little bit laid back with that approach. Like it requires a lot more push in educating your clients, saying why you should spend on this furniture, why this guy, why this piece. They're very attached to the sentimental value of things. In Bangalore, it was a little bit more experimenting with pieces or psychology. They don't mind if you had a value attached to it, or if you bring on board the idea of how this will come together. Felt like the right market to start, and then that's been the journey. Yeah.
And then how many years you practice on your own?
I think I've practiced about 5 years. Also started at the same time as Kavya, I think.
Okay. You started at the same time. Did you know that you wanted to become an interior designer too? Like, I mean, she had from childhood she knew she wanted to become 7th grade.
No.
When did that come? When did that come?
I'm a little bit more spontaneous. So for me, it was about exploring different passions growing up. I valued experiences. I let a lot of those experiences rub off on me. And for the longest time, actually, like I know that one of the biggest values that I have is like I genuinely feel very, very compassionate. So growing up, I felt like I wanted to become a vet at some point, and I think somewhere in college I had the idea of doing journalism. And I still remember I went, there's a college in Bangalore that has an excellent journalism course, and it was a hard interview to crack, so I did about 3-4 different rounds. I got into the university, I paid up at the university, and I had big ideas and ambitions, and maybe if not design, I think journalism would be great too. And I made it through the whole interview, and at the end of the interview is when I found out that the college also has a really nice course in design. So I actually went back, thought about it for a bit, internalized, maybe what I really wanted to do. I knew I had a creative flair. I come from a family of, I think half the family is very, very creatively inclined. From my grandmother, I think up until the very end of her life, there's been a lot of hand making, lots of creativity flowing, whether it was with thread work, with paperwork, with bookwork, anything very, very handmade. So from my grandparents to my uncles, aunts, my father's also in the ceramic line. So I've actually seen that growing up as well. And so I sat with the idea a little bit, and I said, actually maybe this is what I want to do. I want to make a difference in this field.
When was this?
2009.
2009. That's what did you do your bachelor's, or before your bachelor's you decided to get into interiors, and you also done your architecture?
I've done my interior design.
Oh, you done your interior design?
I've done my bachelor's and master's both in interior design.
Oh, okay.
So studied for about 5 years. Between my bachelor's and master's also I worked a little bit just to get an idea of what the field was like. I feel like today one of the things that we experience very often is people finish their bachelor's and either start a firm or finish their bachelor's and want to do their master's immediately, right? And we're trying to educate a lot of people that we interview, a lot of this young generation, to say that it's so crucial that when you finish your bachelor's, yes, it's a fascinating idea to pursue your master's, but really understand what the design field is like, because it's so diverse. You can specialize in landscape, you can specialize in lighting, you can specialize in textile. There's so much even within the interior realm that you can do. So understand what opportunities are there and give it thorough time. You can't make that decision in a 6-month internship that you finished in college. So if you study a little bit, after you finish studying, work a little bit, understand what your strengths are and what really you want to master in, and then go out and kind of pursue that.
What I understand from you guys is it's more passion driven, and somewhere you culturally at your home also you saw a lot of artwork. Your parents were more somewhere was into the industry or were passionate about the whole industry.
Yeah.
That was more on an influencing basis, like you got into this.
Correct.
That's why you drive through passion. Does passion make you money? Like generally, if I'm passionate about doing something, do you think that it will make me money, or is it something I'll be creative and blah blah blah? So what do you think? What's your take on this?
I think it can make you money depending on how you approach it. If you romanticize the idea of passion way too much without any logic, then no, you're not focusing on that. But if there is a thorough business plan, if you think things through and you're a little bit of a planner, then there is room to kind of make money depending on what kind of execution you want to do, or depending on what your business model really is.
Okay.
And I also feel like getting help at the right time, reaching out to mentors, understanding what your different options are, and then kind of prepping it, right, can make you money.
Passion can and
I'd say passion and money don't always go hand in hand. You have to choose the outcome of your passion in terms of, you can become an artist like a painter and a sculptor and things like that, or you can do something in a creative field that is still for a more commercial use. And when I mean commercial, it's for an end user's point of view. So it doesn't necessarily mean money. The more you invest in it, of course, in due time it will pay. Like passion pays in due time. But if you have everyday bills to fill and things like that, then you have to actively be part of the business side of it and the passion side of it, know how to balance it. In some cases, when we spoke about it to a few more people, when we also started out, it was nice to have a partner who is non-design background. So your job is to learn, become creative and do good at that and excel in it, and have somebody who will advise you and keep your finances in check at the same time. Like a CFO of sorts, like which most people have. That's also another way of coming together or finding a partner who will handle, which I think personally both of us don't really like the admin account side of things, because doesn't allow us to take a decision sometimes freely, which we would have otherwise wanted to do, saying, okay, let's invest in this and then see how this will turn out, and let's have hope with this. Passion gives you hope with work in general. It encourages you to take a little bit more bolder risk, saying, nahi, kar lenge, dekh lenge. Money is a driving force. So days you have a bad day and when there's money in the account, it just helps you, it's okay.
I can run the whole thing.
So it is important to balance them both, but having a partner will help, and knowing how to balance at the right time would help. So it just cannot be passion, it just cannot be money.
So I think so passion cannot be in silos. You need to have certain skills like admin, accounts, more acumen, business acumen to make money.
Yeah, a structure would always help to...
Because I meet a lot of designers. So I'm from a non-design background. I've collaborated with a firm in Dubai, right? And I meet him and so he keeps saying me, if you lock me in a room and if I get to only design, I can do wonders. But if you tell me to meet a client and, send him a BOQ and, again meet the client in terms of changes, blah, blah, blah. I just hate the client side of it because I don't just want to design. So somewhere I feel like, he would also, agreeing to what you were saying, is he would also like to have a non-design partner who's not a designer, who can help him with the other parts of it, like the sales, the procurement and the execution, blah, 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 blah. So that really helps, but how does it work out for you guys? So since you both are designers, so who manages admin, who manages accounts, who manages the other stuff?
We hold each other accountable to it. Like I mentioned some time ago, it's very important to have good mentors in life, and we've kind of reached out to some people to understand how they're running their practices and taking cues from their professional career. We've set up weekly accounts meetings, so we're aware of what our numbers look like. We have processes in place for hiring. We have processes in place for appraisals, the team's performance, motivating the team, celebrating the team. So at this point, it's been a year and a half since we came together, like I mentioned. So we haven't split responsibilities and said, hey, this is your domain, but we do have a broader idea of who's good at what, like whose strengths are where. And that really helps drive some of these decisions, but we're both involved in a lot of these decisions.
Doesn't that, I mean, me and my brother, Preet, who's also part of my business, we also try doing that, like, but I think that somewhere or the other, running it in a much more professional basis, like, like he takes care of entire operations and I take care of sales and procurement and accounts, and we know our work, right? Does that help, or is it something where the way you guys are operating, like, hands-on with everything, it's more on an entire spectrum of a project, like a project basis, responsibilities are, split?
I think it varies. It depends on the kind of person you are, the personality you have, the strengths and weaknesses you have. For some businesses, yes, it makes a lot more sense to define the verticals and say, this is your domain and you will call shots on this. This is my domain and I will handle this. In the case of Shruti and me, we're both very passionate. We're both very creative. So how we divide work internally is that we design projects together, and then at some stage when it hits execution, one of us become POC on that project. Okay. So then we have
just to
projects
head
that
it
we're
and not
leading.
like steps to, and client also will be confusing.
Yeah, you don't want to, yeah, it's
Yes,
like one single
and
point of
all
contact
that.
is what I
Correct.
need. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a single point of
So
contact.
we-
Managing the client is one person.
Yes, absolutely. So it becomes easy between us also, it becomes easy on site as well. Also, it can lead to confusion on site. Otherwise, one day I'm going, one day she's going, but madam ne ye kaha tha, wo madam ne wo kaha tha. We try and avoid all of that. So that's how we split responsibilities. But it does depend on your personality. If we did have partners who were very, very good with finance and not so creatively inclined, or if that was their passion a little bit more, then things might have been different for us. Today, the way we see it is, it's very easy to hire an external CA to get advice on that front, or to work with an external HR to kind of delegate and use somebody else's strengths outside, because we've identified our strengths and we're playing to it. We know that both of us want to focus on really good design, and that's what drives us at Studio Roo. I don't think no matter how large or small a project is, design is ever compromised. That's what really ticks both of us. That's how we're able to sleep with content every night. Like, we're very passionate about what we do, and towards the end of a project, that pride is like, at any photo shoot, if you come to a Studio Roo photo shoot, we're praising ourselves.
Right.
We're so proud of ourselves. Like, this is really looking nice.
We are our own hype.
Yeah, we're our cheerleaders.
Because I think so. That's what you're celebrating your own small wins, because you go through so much, and design and executing a certain thing is not that easy.
Yes.
So there's so much which goes in, and when you see the whole product coming live as per your visualization and executed properly, I think so that gives you that natural,
Everything.
is-
There's not one spot on any site where we say, let's not shoot the bathroom, we didn't design it well, it's looking shoddy. It doesn't happen, because you've paid attention to the tiniest corners of any site. And again, no matter how large, small, who the client is, it doesn't matter. If we have taken the project on, then our focus is we will do our best. And best for whatever is good for that site, whatever works for that client brief. We have this discussion very often also. It's not about her idea, my idea, somebody from the team, client. It's what works best for that project. So it's very collaborative also internally in the office.
My next question to you guys is, now that's the question which I struggle the most with. You visualize crazy. You visualize a certain design, a certain render, certain material palette to say a home or say a restaurant. How do you choose the right contractors, where the entire design of yours would depend on who is doing the job, right? So, and if you're starting off, say you've not worked with that contractor. I understand you got through references, which I understand, but if you're not worked and you're starting off, how do you choose the right contractor in your industry and ensure that your design is being executed?
You want to take that?
We actually do something called design management. We don't do project management, and the difference that we want to keep it like is because the design and the drawing and everything was happening within the designers, the moment that's gotten signed off from the client and we're speaking to people now who are going to execution the project, if in case they are not from the background that we've worked with or not worked with our style of working before, we do like a recce with them first of seeing what projects they must have done, just to sort of analyze and judge in some sense or assess if this person will be able to cater to the design sensibilities we have. And like we just did earlier, we do a lot of mock-ups. Multiple times we do a lot of mock-ups saying you've not gotten the right shade of grey or green or brass or things like that. So a lot of mock-ups go into place, which is all called out from the beginning. And then if that... also, another I think I would want to highlight on the key thing is the attitude of the contractor or his team in general. If he also, because it's a team, it's not you're a contractor or you're a labor or hum designer hai, it's no hierarchy there. You and I are a team. When we come together, it's for the benefit of that project. So if you had the right attitude and your vision is also like us saying, this project ko ekdam, like this has to be the most stunning thing you have done and I have done, then ye hone wala hai. So that is an attitude that we're really looking for, and no matter what time, day, whenever we call for whatever we ask in terms of, like, let's say mock-ups or samples, if his attitude and energy is like, nahi, mujhe bhi maza nahi aaya, wapas karte hain. Like, we heard a very nice quote from, I think, in one of the interviews I read about some person who works for the Ambani, and he said that one thing about him was that every single time to his co-peers, he'll keep checking saying, maja aave chhe ne? That's very important, and we constantly do that with the team. But you're having fun, right? Like, that's more important. Like, your attitude needs to be that maza aa raha hai, kuch acha karte hain, with the client, with the team, and all of that. If the contractor has that energy, and we've seen that a lot in Bangalore especially, that they have. Everybody wants to do beautiful project. They want their project to become a landmark. कि दूसरे भी सीखे हमसे, हम कुछ अच्छा करते. So they'll, okay, ये मजा नहीं आया, let's discard, let's try again. To have that attitude is a big way. You know that guy's going to go long. You know this team is going to go long.
So how do you judge in more on an attitude basis? So initially you had a conversation with that guy. Obviously when you take up the job, you'll be learning, ma'am,
yeah, everybody wants to impress at that point.
Yeah, I've done. They've become a Superman like when you meet them. And then when you executing at the site and stuff, so there's a long difference than promises and what delivery is. So
so these mock-ups help. Yeah, so the checklists help, the mock-up checklists help. We have a whole sort of a process in place where we do a drawing list, a sample list, a master list of what we want to see. And also clients can't visualize as much as we can. So when a life-size mock-up is done of the, let's say, the groove detail of how this is going to happen, what's material, what's the maintenance, etc., all of us are seeing the same thing together. So if the wife is having a problem saying, "Par main isko maintain kaise karungi?" questions are answered there because she saw it live before it's happening. That time, the attitude of that contractor and his team has to be saying, "Ha, ye sahi baat hai. Let me come up with another detail." He's also brainstorming. We're also brainstorming. My money will be spent, time will be spent, effort will be spent. But imagine to do all that little bit more. It's like penniless pound foolish, Abhi aapko lag raha hai ki time waste ho raha hai, bahut time waste ho raha hai, but this is actually going to save you time, money and energy later. So think of it, take time and take a decision now, educate everybody, सबको साथ में लेके चलो, तो फिर मजा आएगा काम करने में.
Are clients okay with that? I mean, if you're working on say a very strict timeline, understand homes, I understand. Maybe you be working with people who would be having the second or third homes, but say a commercial project, a restaurant or a retail store that has strict timelines of say 60 days, say 90 days, or maybe 120 days, and has to happen within the timeline. And if the mock-up is taking say X number of days extra, which is not budgeted, how do you communicate the same with the client, and are the client also in the same wavelength as what you are?
I think now we are able to do that. Initially when we started, we were not able to be the sounding board, but now we are. When we sign the project and we understand the timelines and we are like, nahi ho paega, 3 mahine mein nahi ho paega. Everything in life, if you want to create it beautiful, takes time. You have to understand that logic. Yeah, it's the basic thing which will take time. You coming with a timeline for 3 months for like a 30,000 square feet space cannot happen. It's going to be a shithole. You're going to keep spending money on it. And it has happened. So now, like I said, is that, okay, we understand, we want to work with you and we want to make this project nicer. Let's keep it to 5 months. Arey, wo 2 mahine ka rent pay karna is not going to be a big deal in the 30 year of your business there. It's just a very small drop in the ocean. It is okay to do that. And this, we have to still do, like this education period, like we call it a conversation meeting when we meet a client, where we're discussing hard things. It's important to discuss those hard things, saying, I know you have an aspiration of doing it in 3 months. Everybody does it, I'm sure. You walk out of the door, 10 people will be like, hum karte hain. Here we are just telling you this is a hard conversation. We want to bring it out right in the front. And we've lost projects also in that case, which is okay.
You're okay to let go?
Yeah, we're okay to like say no, because like some basics have to be in place. If you're not able to have a hard conversation with me, this journey is going to be 3 months, 6 mahine, maybe long. I can be working with you multiple times in 30 years. We're going to be in a relationship for some while.
It's more not a transaction kind of a thing, and you make it very clear. And you're okay to let go clients also.
Conversation is very conversational. You have to know that you can trust us. and that you can be unapologetic, and you don't have to have an overwhelming feeling saying, "Arey, we're making so many changes," and things like that. Even with us, we want to be like, listen, this is a creative journey. If this project is meant to happen for 2 years, there will be moments where we'll also be like, "Humne kahin pe dekha," or let's say we travel somewhere. I think this is going to be a stunning work for you. I know it's not there in the 3D. But like this piece is meant for you. I've spoken to artists who are like, I know exactly iske ghar pe kaun si diwar pe jayega, and they're very touchy about their pieces. Most of the art pieces, like they're like, we want to sell to everybody. You have to have as much, love for it as much as I had in some sense for me to sell that piece to you. So those evolvements happen, that journey. Now to do that, you should have some trust in us. Vice versa, we should have that trust in you. We should have that trust in the contractor.
How do you find new contractors? Someone who's just starting off. Maybe you are 21, back then 21-year-old person and just starting off an interior firm, very passionate, beautiful designs, showed the entire mock-up. Client is like, I want exactly the same, not less than that. And you don't know anyone. And finding a right contractor is not that easy. Like being in Bangalore, how do you find your first contractor? How do you find your POP guy, a painter, blah, blah, blah? How would you start your journey?
I think humans help humans. We ask around
Right.
lot, because that comes from a referral, from a trusted source rather. And then we go and check his work. Also, when we're doing things, even till the date, even till today, we vet with 3 to 4 people. So it's just not you or not one person. There are 3 people we're talking about for the same project. It's not just to vet on the costing. It's like I said, attitude, your effort, the timelines, the budget, the client relationship with them. Because for us, it's a very triangular relationship. We don't get involved in the contracting part of business. That's direct transaction that happens between the client and the contractor. We manage the project more from a design point of view. We tell him saying, ये tile इस तरह से लगाना है, इतना groove छोड़ना है. All of that is from our end. But we will not say कि tile कब आएगा, कौन load करेगा, कितने आदमी आएंगे. Those things are from a project management.
So what is it? What do you mean by design management? And what is design management? What is project management? What is a turnkey contract?
Turnkey, I think, is where they design and build. So everything happens in-house and one team does it all. And they have their own vertical and department.
So client has to get in touch with only one person and he does the entire
and
job.
Most people prefer that. Even when we get inquiries, people prefer that. Say, I don't want to break my head with multiple people. But our, let's say, niche in some sense that we cater to, the kind of clientele we want to work with is for people who want to work with us or like our aesthetics and our approach to design. That's our market. That would be the first category where we do design and design management, where because we take a few projects at a time, we come to site, we sit, we make the detail in the drawing part also, we come to site and explain the contractor on site also, isko aise lagana hai, this, that. But we won't manage saying kitne aadmi aaye, aaj plumber aayega ki nahi and all of that. That's the project manager. He is to make sure the timelines are working out, the sequence of the task has to be planned, saying pehle, break will happen, then chasing will happen, then plastering, then this is this. So he's planning the sequence out and everybody is kind of following a sequence of work on site. But if they have design questions on how to do that job, how to make that detail, those things we manage. Right. And we constantly come and do site visits. We do some sort of a quality check also saying this plywood or ye material jo use kar raha hai, this will wear off. Or this brand is not that great. Or use this hardware because you want to spend good hardware on the kitchen and the door. So those advices we give. Also like a financial advice, because it's design management. If your client, and we speak a lot of, it's like a doctor-patient relationship. You have to tell me your symptoms. I will, you don't tell me iska solution.
It's more of a consulting. It's like a consulting, design consulting, right? So is it okay to say it's design management, project management, and then turnkey? That's how the whole series of work goes?
Yeah, but they're all also different verticals. Like a person can do design and build, which is the turnkey. A person can just do project management. We've also hired project management agencies in the past. Right. They have their own team where they keep your Gantt charts and your MS project timelines and things like that. Very, very...
But you guys don't do project management. So who does project? You tell clients to hire a project manager or you suggest a project manager?
Either.
Either ways. So there's one project manager who's keeping in check with all the contractors.
Yeah.
And any kind of design related comes to you. You guys sign off in terms of design or give them the drawings. Yeah. And the work is being executed in certain timelines. Yeah. Right. And that's what you guys do, design management.
Correct. Yes.
Right. Perfect.
And so the initial meeting with the client is to tell them all this. Educate them with about all of these processes, saying that's why it takes time. This is where you will be looking at. Those are the challenges that you will be facing eventually. It's monsoon time. Your project's going to hit the monsoon period. So paint nahi ho paega. Don't So these are hard things. Not many people realize it, but they are key points that we've understood. We make a checklist after every project we hand over. We've also had learnings. Make a note of it. tell the team about it, tell the entire team about it. Make a checklist for ourselves saying, "Agli baar dhyan mein rakhna hai ki, don't work with that material. It was fail proof. It failed. It didn't show up as we expected."
Right.
We have clients that we still go back to. They call us back to their homes because they're hosting something still, and when we walk into a project that we finished years ago, it's so nice to see how it's aged.
Right.
And how they're loving it, how people that they love it, etc. So those are, that you're doing something right.
What does design mean to you? Like these days, it's like everyone talks about design, like everyone aspires to become a home interior designer, but a lot of people don't understand what does design mean, especially in interiors. So what does design mean to you guys?
I think to me mainly design is comfortable luxury in some sense. Anything from an object to a space where you can experience comfort almost as second nature, that you don't have to call out, that doesn't have to shout out at you, that's not making you feel uncomfortable, is well designed.
Right. Okay.
This could be, let's say, something as simple as planning your windows very well so you have cross ventilation and lots of natural light kind of flooding in, is something that has to be thought through at early stages to make sure that for the rest of the life of that project, when you're in that room, you get this feeling of comfort in that space because it was well designed and thought through.
Okay. Why doesn't design have to be luxury?
I think that also depends on how you define luxury.
Okay.
As long as it's making you feel comfortable, you're not pushing 5 buttons to make one light turn on, for example. There's luxury in that also.
Okay.
If it's helping you save time, if it's giving you in a sense or transporting you to a completely different world, there's luxury in that.
Okay. So it's more of a luxury is more relatable to more comfort, right? So if you're comfortable, that's more luxurious in terms of any kind of design. So you're trying to make design which is more comfortable for anyone to use.
Yeah. And
any space to be used is it's more luxurious. That's what you're trying to say?
Correct. So whether, let's say, from the different genres that we've designed a museum, if I were to take that as an example, or a play school, if I were to take that as an example. The play school has different kids coming in, and every year those kids are going to change. But just instantly you know that it's one of the first times the kids will leave their home for a long period of time. There are emotions that the parents will feel, there are emotions that the kids will feel. You want to make them feel comfortable in the space, the parents as well as the kids. Good design can make that happen.
All right. But not that you need to spend X amount of budget.
No,
it's just that
it has
the
to be
way
well
it has
thought
been
through,
well thought.
it has to be well planned, the detailing needs to be perfect, the lighting has to be really nice. Even the layout, the flow of space, where will the parents come and say goodbye to their kids? Where are they waiting at the end of the day? How the kids are interacting in a space, because for the first few years of their life, it's the first time they're going to be making friends. It's the first time they're interacting with strangers. And at the same time, you want everyone to have that sense of comfort in that space. And good design kind of enables you to do that.
That could relate to any space. No? If you think of it, could relate to a restaurant, because that's what you're going to have a good meal. Like that space you should make you feel comfortable. Home is always, offices you're working all the time. Maybe a resort is something where you're relaxing. So anything which can make you comfortable is more designed to you guys. In India, design has evolved over the last 5 years or maybe 10 years. Hiring an interior designer was a taboo. It was a very expensive affair. So very few people in India used to hire an interior designer. Do you think that the whole mindset of people have changed over the years?
Yes, absolutely. I think there was a phase where people would either do it themselves or get their contractor to design for them without a structural engineer, no head or tail. Somebody's sketching a few things and we're building. I think all of that has changed very much over the last few years. And India is so fertile at the moment that you throw a seed in any direction, it will sprout. Okay. There is new work in so many different cities. If cities are already densely populated, then there is revival of work, which means you're either renovating the space because you want to bring in some amount of freshness. So we're at a very good point in life where today we're seeing clients who come and say, I have hired the best architect, and that architect might be doing interior design, but they will still opt for an external interior designer who can bring freshness into a space only because the life of that project could be 5 years. And the expertise an architect brings will be for the architecture. Then you have clients today are understanding that to bring in freshness to the interiors, you hire a professional who does just interior design. You can bring in a lighting designer who will optimize the use of light or the play of light from morning to night. You bring in a landscape consultant or a landscape architect. And then going back, tying together what you all said earlier about a PMC who ties all of these ends together and makes it a beautiful end product. Clients today are well traveled. They're understanding that you want to spend money even if it's the basement of your house. It can still make you feel fresh every morning because it is a crucial space of the house at the end of the day. So, and I think COVID has also given people that reality check, right? Everyone's been locked up in their homes for so long, they've realized that work from home is integral on some days. So you want a nice space which can be quiet, you have a nice Zoom backdrop. We're designing like that. And these are the conversations we have when we design people's homes. For us at Studio Roo, it's about understanding what your lifestyle is, but also what your aspirations are. You might have different hobbies today, but you might want to feel differently in this home you're creating. So for the future we're catering to your different moods, your different characteristics, to every individual in the house. To the extent that we had a client who had dogs and we understood a day in the life of the dog. Where is he going to enter from? Where does he spend most of his time? Where will he be bathed and showered so that the house doesn't get dirty? How can you have doors at the right places? What can their play areas look like? Where are their snacks going to be stored? And all of this is very, very crucial in bringing the comfort we spoke about to you, to your dog, because tomorrow if he's uncomfortable and you need to make changes to bring him that comfort, you're again spending time and money.
So I think so. One point you mentioned after COVID, the demand for luxury homes has spiked up. Like almost the prices have gone up to skyrocket today. So after COVID, where people were always saving, as an Indian mindset, people save. They either invest in gold or they invest in their marriages. That's it. I feel that there were only two places where people used to invest. Now after COVID, what I've seen is people have started traveling a lot. And they've started spending a lot of money in their homes. So you think that the whole, this is just the phase what India is going through, and this is going to go, this phase is going to continue for a long time, where people spending on more lifestyle. So interior designing is more of a lifestyle. So the travel and interiors is more of a lifestyle spend, which Indians did not do earlier. So you think that this trend is going to continue and it'll go through for much more longer time, say 20 years, 30 years?
Yes, absolutely. Because I feel like it's not really a phase or a trend, it's an awakening of sorts. People are realizing that if you grow up in a house with a space that's very well curated, it is impacting your life. It's impacting your child's life, like Shruthi referenced earlier, right? Like growing up, she had all of these nuances. Her parents were oblivious to the fact that they're actually altering her life in some sense. But that's what design is doing to us today. You go to a hospital which is very beautifully designed, you feel calmer. Your dentist, as soon as you enter, you know you're going to have a painful experience. You're in pain already, but that place kind of comforts you immediately. So it's an awakening of sorts that I don't see fading. It's here to stay.
And India has, I think so, it's probably 15 years what probably US or China was in terms of the design. You think that? Or it just evolved a lot? Like in last 5 years, we caught up in last 50, maybe 15 years.
I think every country is kind of doing their own thing. You have design weeks happening at different places. China will still have products that people will look up to. There is still a segment of people in India who will travel to China and bring furniture from there, or Dubai or the US or Italy. But I think the revival of craftsmanship here is something that we're celebrating in the last 5 years.
Okay.
There is a phase, and actually this is a legit fear, right? That on our sites, very often we hear carpenters saying, "Mere papa bhi ye karte the, mere dada bhi ye karte hain, and very proudly I'm doing this." But he doesn't want his son to become a carpenter. He wants to educate his son. Mera beta engineer hoga,
Yeah, architect banega. I've seen a lot of architects also coming in and starting a furniture company in Bombay. I've seen that.
Yes, absolutely. And what is happening in the process is we're losing years and generations of all of this knowledge that has been passed on from generation to generation.
Okay.
So now slowly, I think people are realizing, even these craftsmen in some of these remote places, there is an awakening of different sorts happening that I know I have studied this, but I will go and join hands with what my papa or my dada did. That emotion is coming back. People are valuing, slowly, but people are valuing arts, culture, crafts a lot more now.
And you think that will define the base of Indian design? Like we are creating a different genre of design, more not a contemporary or modern, but more Indian arts and crafts? Because I see you guys use a lot of Indian Indian art. Do you think that that would be a more genre where it will be picked up by different parts of the world, or it's already been picked up?
It already is.
It's already is picked up. It's already is picked up.
There are lots of like bidri work, tikri work, different arts and crafts, because it's such a beautiful country to be in. Every state, every few kilometers, our food changes, our culture changes, the language changes, the arts and crafts changes, right? So I feel like a lot of the work we're already doing, whether it's Thatira work, tikri work in different parts of the country, product design has really picked up, and these products are being showcased at Dubai, being showcased at Milan. People outside are getting to know and learn about these products. It's bringing people from other countries here. That curiosity is kind of drawing them in here. So we're definitely leaving a mark on the design language of the globe.
And I've seen that the events are helping a lot. I've attended one event in Bombay, Architectural Digest, and then I think so there was an Indian Design Week which you guys were part of. And I see a lot of designers from abroad had come in and they participated in the whole thing. So I see the whole awareness of design is I mean, it's evolving. The whole mindset of people coming to these design events. Even if you look at the brands which I've seen earlier, it was in rugs, it was only Jaipur rugs, but then I've seen the couple of other brands who have come in doing rugs, and they've collaborated with few fashion designers to design their rugs and stuff. And so I feel that the whole awareness and evolvement of in this whole journey, a lot of local brands are evolving, like, you know, they are coming up with the whole design industry. Yeah.
I also think, just summing up all the questions that you asked now, what is design and why people are hiring interior designers now and all of that, I think it's also a very simple rule of demand and supply. There is a big evasion of social media and everything reachable to everyone.
Right.
Like even if you're in a Bellary today, which we're designing a project to, things are available there, which it was kind of like a, revolutionary for us that we thought that because the project was planned like that, sab Bangalore se jayega, Bombay se aayega and all of that. But when as we're going through the project, like ye bhi milta hai, ye bhi milta hai, ye bhi milta hai. So the clients, yeah, because you're thinking tier 2 city, right?
Yeah,
you're thinking ki gaon hai, you're thinking like township and things like that, ki city mein hi hai. But today, let's say in the past 5-10 years, like you mentioned, so many options are available. People are getting overwhelmed and confused. Like when I was growing up, when I told my mum would have been an interior designer according to whatever she knew that time and she could put together, it was beautiful. Right now, there are so many options available ready that you're getting confused as a person saying, I don't know, because everything looks beautiful. I need a designer to tell me this suits to you. This will suit your personality. This will suit your family's personality. I think that is where, when you're choosing a designer or an architect, you should know what you are as a personality and be true to that. It's exactly like how you're a patient, you're going to a doctor saying, I think it's a heart problem. But the doctor will be like, nahi, aapko pet mein darad hai. That a doctor can tell you. So you come with your options, you come with your aspirations and your design, and you meet with a designer and an architect and tell him what you want to feel in this space. It could be a restaurant, whatever. It could be an aspiration, like Kavya was mentioning. Like you want to bring Bangkok in India as a restaurant concept, sure. Like as an interior space, right? That's your aspiration. Let's bring that. Let's be true to that. Let's be authentic to that. That's our job. You just tell us what you want. So because there's so many options available, you're getting confused. I think that's why the interior designer concept has also bloomed. Everybody is wanting to become that because they can solve for these immediate requirements, and people with all kind of budgets, all kind of tastes, all kind of, they think they don't know. But in the truth of reality, a lot of our projects are directed by the clients. So much inspiration comes from them only. Their travels, their stories, their pieces. There is a client who's having his dad's police hat and his mom's purse as one of his highlighting walls that he's kept. It's so beautiful to see that. So much thought comes behind that idea of keeping and finding a place for that in their home. And also design is very simple. It's, in my opinion, it's very functionality means psychology meets good taste. Like a cup, this is enough for me to have a coffee in. It's wide open. It has a good handle. It's ergonomic. My 3 fingers go in. It's comfortable to take. It's a design of that cup. We're doing a research for a project somewhere in Pench where we're learning about the arts and crafts, when we came across some weaving ladies community, like a tribal community that just started this baaton mein hi, somebody started weaving it, and that was what? Broomsticks. Because they were getting bored saying, why a typical broomstick? Let's weave the weave part of it. And that's so beautiful. It uses a decor piece, and it's there in the Met Museum.
Oh, wow.
That was coming as a thought from some, bunch of ladies sitting and hanging out in their huts. So those are the thoughts that is behind the story of what a lot of architects are now tapping into. Whatever you saw at ID, for example, it's all inspirational that comes from these villages and things like that, which is very beautiful to see. It's blooming. It's there in the Invisible Collection, which is a big art gallery in London. To see a product designed by India, by Indian artists, by an Indian designer, to be showcased there in Paris and things like that. A whole, gallery for B.V. Doshi to happen, him becoming a laureate. These are things that India is mapping now. What Ambani is doing, for example. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a fan of that or not. It's just empowering to be in part of the country at its most, the most fertile.
Do you think social media has helped a lot, like because of geo being accessible and the data is like, if I go in Dubai, the data is so expensive. People are not so mobile savvy, like they are, but not like how India is. Data for us is like no money, like it's almost free. So do you think that after geo has come in and after the whole social media is going all viral in India, so the whole design sense, as you had mentioned, they you check out someone's work on social media and then reach out to him. Do you think that has helped a lot?
I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing because you can see what other people are doing, and bad thing is because you are, it's easy to commercialize anything because it's just out there. Like you can say, imitation is the biggest form of flattery and things like that. But then India, to serve its demand, copies everything. Even if it's arts and crafts, or let's say a Gond art, for example, it's for the tribal community, done by them. But the copies have been made so exponentially and so horribly, in some sense, that it's commercialized the whole thing. There's no special need about it anymore. So the good thing was that now people are aware. But the sad thing also, and which is of two sides of the same coin, right? You can't help it, is that it can get commercialized very, very quickly.
It's good for us, no? Because, I mean, if someone's seeing a good home being designed, they have an aspiration of maybe they start with their room or maybe their living room, or that aspiration is there, no? After seeing good things, yeah?
We were there in a event, I think, and there was a speaker who was talking about his the way he designs buildings, and he said he met with somebody who was in Norway and Denmark and like the North European countries, which is known for the highest happiness quotient, right, in the world mapping. And when he was talking to them, and he said, saying, we have everything, we're happy. The only thing we are lacking, which I realized that we are lacking, is when I came to India and I was there in the middle of a street in a hustle bustle that's going on, and people all of that is going on. But what I got the feeling of was hope. When you have everything, the only thing he was lacking was hope. Like, what am I living for? What am I looking up to? What am I going to get up the next morning for? What gives me hope that tomorrow is going to be a better day? India was that for him.
Oh, wow.
He said India has a hope. Everybody is so eager to go back to home, and everybody is so eager saying, okay, we have a problem. Tomorrow we'll fix it. Aaj try kiya, nahi hua, again, we'll try again. We'll try again, we'll try again. There's a hope this country generates, which is so massive and so nice to hear from an outsider's point of view, that we don't realize that India can be a country to give hope to the world. That there will be problems. Everybody has problems. That doesn't mean कि आप भाग जाओ. Fine, stay, fix. कल आएगा वापस, again try करो, and you will become a better country. You will become a better person.
And that's what things.
Because it gives you hope. Yeah. You have to live your life until you die. So
what gives you? So both of you guys mentioned that as design, as you're growing up, your parents played a major part in terms of your design inspiration. So right now, if you have to create a new concept, what is your inspiration? How do you make new designs? Like every time, if I have to design a home, or I have to build an office space, or I have to build a restaurant, I have to think of a new concept. And there's a lot of creative juices and goes into building a new concept. So how would you inspire yourself for creating something new?
I think a lot of our inspiration comes from our clients, from who they are, from what their stories are. At the end of the day, I feel like we're storytellers talking about their narrative and their experiences. So that's a really big influencing factor, and more so with residences. With spaces that could be slightly more public, it is very contextual. So in a project like Pinch, where we're designing a boutique resort, it's about finding out the history and the culture of that land, and then to share that story, because people could be coming into Pinch from different parts of the world, and they might be there only for the jungle safaris, but you're also leaving them with this feeling of understanding this land that they've come and visited, educating them when they're there, and quite subtly. It's not like you're giving them a book and saying ye padho, but in the tiny nuances of the art that's curated in the room, maybe the blankets, the textiles that they're using, you're educating them. So a lot of it is very contextual, and we do a lot of research to kind of get into that. And a large part of our inspiration also comes from our personal travels, our personal research, learning, visiting a lot of these design events, talking to fellow designers. And again, the partnership helps so much because we're constantly igniting or fueling each other's passion and curiosity. So we inspire each other sometimes.
That's quite interesting. So I think so that's it's about meeting people, collaborating. I mean, meeting different designers, attending different events is something which gives you more inspiration, and you do a deep dive into what the client wants, like what is the what do you call more towards background towards what he wants.
Sometimes they don't even know what they want. It's a process of self-discovery
You're asking
together.
questions.
Yeah,
You're
we're asking
asking-
the right questions
you're
at the
asking
right
the right
time.
questions.
We're probing them in the right way.
So it's more
Sometimes-
educating. I think so. What you also had mentioned, it's more educating the client
Absolutely.
in terms of this is right and this are not. This is what the turnkey is. This is what the design management. If you skip out the whole education part, then the whole project does not go in the way you would have envisioned.
And this could be very simple things, like very often you have people coming and telling you that switchboard isi height pe lagna chahiye. And kyun? Because salo se, like for years, people have been only doing that. Sometimes we don't question the basic things that we do, which I think internally we do that a lot. If there is a norm, we ask why, lots of times, to ourselves, to people on site, to our clients. So there's a lot of probing and investigating, finding out, researching through tiny, subtle questions.
And answers are available. You just have to ask the right question. That's all. Answers are available, even if we didn't know, because no one person in this world can claim they know everything. So if you had asked the right question, if not you can solve it, you will ask around, and there will be a solution to that problem. And there's a psychology involved with like all of that also. Like the basic concept of using tube light or white light in the day is so used to the idea of how a switchboard needs to be in that height. Whereas if you go back to the olden times, there used to be diyas and lamps after, like when it gets dark. It's because it's winding down time. If you use white light even after when it gets dark, you're going to delay your sleep, your cycle of the body of how it needs to go wind down. You need to settle down slowly to go back to into getting a deeper sleep. That's why diyas used to be, because that's the 3K, the CRIs and everything come into play. If you speak to yeah, it's supposed to be like that. You have to finish your time, your work within the sun, the CRI of the sun, let's say the daytime. And then comes the winding down, your personals, your family time, which everything that will soothe you, calm your soul and body so you can get a deep sleep, which will energize you, recharge your battery to go to work again next day. That so much play happens with light, with music, the kind of music you want to hear and play and make that person feel in that space has so much to do with, like say, musical instruments and the ragas and everything. It's so much to do with the things that we have answers for. Everybody solved this and went for us. We were just so in this rat race of like, "Arey ye kar rahe, to hum bhi karte hain." That we forget the nuances of these things. So it's nice for us to keep constantly in touch with that, do some research like that all the time. So when a client's coming to us, we know that, but for you, you're a potter, you're an artist, you're a high-techy guy, you should do this as a lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. So is there a standard for design you guys refer to, or would you like to tell it to our people who are watching this?
There is a manual called Newfort's Book of Standards, which we refer to. We're introduced to it in college, and it's like a Bible that you can keep going back to. But I feel like it's nice to kind of know the rules and then to bend them in certain areas depending on the nature of the project, the nature of the client. So you understand the rules of the game, and then if there is an advantage in breaking those rules, you don't fear from doing that. So, yeah.
The last few ones, if a young girl or a boy would want to start an interior company, what is to do and what is not to do?
Should we do one each? You want to do or not to do?
No, I'll do the not to do. I'm always the person in our partnership, also the person who says no. And she'll be the person who says yes. So it's a yin yang yang. I think don't rush in the beginning. Like take your time and just this morning I think we were advising someone to choose your mentors correctly so they can guide you, become a guiding path, like a guru of sorts, right? So they can do a guiding path of what is important for you, how you would shape up your career. It's going to be hard working with a tough mentor, but it's essential. So don't rush into it. Get a lot of that kind of training. Practice. Don't rush into also wanting to start because I'm saying I also wanted to do that. But I took my time. It was a good 10 to 12 years of working for someone. understanding, and then finally becoming that emotion in me became stronger, saying I don't think I want to work for anybody like after this point. Like mera ho gaya, abhi jahan se nikalna tha nikal gaya. But it was a nice thing to know where to keep quiet, where to speak up, how to stand for yourself, and where to not, how to balance that off, how to understand the personality of a client. Like there was a very nice thing my mentor told me when I was working. It was a new project I had just joined. I did the whole design presentation, everything. He didn't even take a look at it. We're there, we're at the client's meeting, we're just entering the conference room, and this was a board of like some Singapore office who was setting up an office in Chennai. We were walking in, and so we sat and all the pleasantries happened, and he's just talking about their business to them. And here I'm just like freaking out because he didn't see anything that we did. Then he was like, okay, so now my colleague will explain you. So I did the whole thing in whatever manner I did. We finished the meeting. We came out and we were sitting in the car, and I'm just like, he was like, congratulations, we've gotten the project. So this and all was discussed with them privately. And I'm just like, I was so freaked out. You could have at least taken a look at the design and all of that. He was like, you have to understand that what my job is and what your job is. My job was to make sure the client's comfortable with us. That's what I did. And that day, because he was into like, I think something to do with like the economical world, I only read the economics paper that morning. And so when I went in, my job is to settle down and calm down the client, saying, "Arey, aapka business kaisa chal raha hai? What kind of?" Because we'll work with every genre of people: doctors, patients, accountants. I had set the tone for you. When you did your job, it was like a cakewalk for him. He's like, we've already gained their trust. So it was nice to get those nuances. That's why it's important to not rush, ever. It's important to take time, make the right decision, think about it twice. Don't overthink anything. Ask around if you're stuck. Always ask. Never judge and assess, saying, I don't think I should approach him.
Don't
Why
jump
not?
into it, right? Just
Yeah.
It looks fancy, or it looks lucrative, or it looks more passionate.
Especially in today's world, like social media can be so deceiving. Don't judge the book by its cover. Really open the book, ask around a little bit, study about a little bit, and then do it. That's the biggest not do, according to me.
How about to do?
The to do is that I think it's important when you're starting off to have a business plan of sorts. Speak to a lot of people, a lot of mentors, ask the right questions, gather your information. While starting with a website is not so important. It's important to focus on good work. It's important to understand your why. It's important to understand your inherent aesthetic. Focus on design. Chase passion before money. So in the beginning, when you're still building your portfolio, give it your 100%. The client has asked you to design 10 things. Go the extra mile. Really make a mark, make an impression. Build lasting relationships. That's very important. The other few things to do is to have your paperwork in place. So the other verticals that we spoke about, it's important to have a contract in place. It's important to have processes on accounts. How are you going to charge them? Why are you charging what you're charging? So, and all of this, it helps to ask mentors who've already figured this out. Early on at studio, like when we started, our contract didn't have an end date. And that's a very, very big mistake. And through all of the conversations that I had, this kind of never came up. And what happens is you have factored in an X amount, but if the project ends in 1 year, it's profitable. If it's going to take 3 years, that X amount is not going to suffice. And if you are running your business on honest relationships and you want to go the extra mile, you can, but you're going to at some point be paying out of your pocket to finish the project.
Right.
So it's important to have at least some kind of knowledge on accounts, what is GST, what is TDS, at what point do you register. There are a lot of other verticals that come in. It's not just that I'm great at design, I will be my own boss. Why? Because I can call the shots. I don't need to get approvals. I can take leaves when I want. So as exciting as it is, there are a lot of layers that you need to master before you jump into it. And you should have those processes in place.
That's amazing.
Also take care of your physical and mental well-being, because design can creative people can get very carried away with what they're doing, like in terms of work. I'm saying they could become very, very, very deep diving into work and like staying long hours and all of that. It really, in today's world, it really comes back in a very horrible way. You have to make sure you're having a good fitness regime, a lifestyle of choice, and make that also an important thing. We tell that to our team also today, saying, listen, you falling sick is really your loss. It's your number of months and years that go wasted. If you're not your physical self at work, you're not going to, like, that same time you could have been a genius because you would have gotten a better sleep at night, let's say. It's important to know that as long as you're also taking care of your health, well-being and mental strength, it will give you the empowerment and the courage to do longer and stay in this field for longer, like lambi race ka ghoda.
It's more of a marathon. That's what one of my bosses, where I was starting off, he told me that if you're starting a business, it's more of a marathon. It's not a sprint. If you think you're going to be tired, and this is like, it's a never-ending marathon is what I call it as.
And you'll have a loss again. 5 years of business, you will have a loss. 10 years of business, you may have a loss. The point is to have a bigger appetite. And to have a bigger appetite, you need to work out so that you can have a bigger appetite and take that leap of faith.
You're more energized, no? When you're working out, like, you can take the stress level or take the problems in a much more better fashion. You're mentally and physically strong, more energized.
Because your 1,000 things are running in your mind, and yet when I'm talking to you, I need to be having my more focus on you, even though 1,000 things are running in my mind. And to do that, and the ability to multifunction like that is not easy. Not easy for a man or a woman or anybody of any age. It requires a lot of like self-working first, having self-motivation, because COVID was a big hit. Like, people didn't know if they had jobs. We didn't know if we'll have a business. AI is coming in. They're saying, you know, what the insecurities of those things, the uncertainties of those things could really get you caught up. You can feel very overwhelmed and not do anything about it, like procrastinate everything. It's important to have that mental strength and work on your fitness, because all of these are related. Your body, your rhythm, your circadian, everything is related to the kind of work you will do, the person you will be.
What do you do for keeping a work-life balance in the whole stressful environment?
I think balance is to each their own. I have a young kid at home. He's about 2.5. So for me, balance is like, as much as time I get off from work, I am with him. That could be any amount. So if I'm getting an hour today, my 9 hours at work and my 1 hour with him is balance. Right. Tomorrow I took 3 hours of work and more time with him. So for me, balance is with my current scenarios that are happening, and I'm trying to be everywhere in the place of my best of my ability. It's more quality. It's not about me feeling guilty that
it's more quality than the quantity.
Yeah, and balance of work for us, I think at this point, is also the art of delegation. With managers, with leadership, with things like that, you have to learn the art of delegation and find the right guy who can get the job done for you. Find the right team on site who can get the job done for you. It's like co-working, like Aapko, if you want to hire a designer, the point is that we take that load off you. So similarly, then I have more space to do something else, right? So that's how I balance my life with something else.
You're more energy left, no? Which you don't realize when you're probably physically or mentally fit. Yeah. What about you? What do you do?
I have a very beautiful morning regime. I do yoga thrice a week, which involves a lot of posture correction, which is so important. Up until very recently, I didn't realize that you could be walking wrong, sitting wrong, standing wrong. So I work on that in the morning with a lot of breath work, which is also so very important. And thrice a week, I do functional training. I like adventures very much. I like hikes. I like nature. I enjoy that very much as well. So that keeps me mentally and physically fit. I also socialize a lot. I'm a very social person. I like my friend circle very much. I like spending time with family very much. So on weekends, I make room to we don't work weekends specifically for this, right? So we can recharge, energize, and come back to office with fresh ideas. So there's a lot of like visiting museums together, visiting cultural shows, theater, music, dance, and that kind of energizes us.
How many cities you guys are doing right now? How many projects you guys are doing in how many cities?
We're doing work in Goa, in Hyderabad, in Bellary, in Pench, in Madhya Pradesh. We've got inquiries from far and wide, from Kashmir to
Guwahati,
to Kanyakumari. It's like almost all the cities you guys are doing. How do you manage so much of work? And you work with one of my friends' home projects. That's how I know you. And I know the kind of detailing you get into. You get into from pin to piano, literally from pin to piano, you get into all the details. And managing so many projects at different locations is a challenge. Like, I'm doing Bangalore and Pune and I go psyched. So how do you manage that? Managing multiple cities?
I think it's about picking the right projects. That's like the first step. So we know that we're very aligned with our clients. We have a unified vision for the project because that kind of makes you want to go the extra mile at all times. The other thing is really planning. So if we are doing different projects, we're doing them at different phases. We very consciously have chosen to become a studio that's boutique. So we do an average of 10 projects at any given point in time so that we can physically be involved, which means that if there is a Bellary site visit and one of us is leading the project, a partner is on site for at least one out of the two meetings that happen, one out of every two meetings that happen. If there is a visit in Hyderabad, we're there physically to make sure that the samples are being checked by us. So there's a lot of touch and feel in this industry,
Right.
and we like to pay that kind of attention to detail. If samples are made, they're checked at the right light, they're checked indoors, they're checked outdoors. We ensure that aesthetically it works, functionally it works, and it's going to last the test of time. So there is a lot of planning that kind of happens. We find, firstly, you've already picked the right kind of client. Then there's time that's spent on finding the right contracting team. We're constantly finding ourselves educating clients and saying it will make your life a lot more easier if there is a PMC in place. So there are photographs that come to us from site, whether it's Goa, Hyderabad, Bellary. WhatsApp has made things so much easier. I don't know how people did this before the internet. So we have our eyes on what's happening on site from time to time. And there's a lot of open communication that happens with the site teams, with the client teams. If we personally feel that we can out better an idea that we ourselves had, we're vocal about it. So at any point in time, the client is aware of what is happening on his site. We are always hands-on. Pictures are being sent. There are email chains that are followed up with. Every meeting has a very detailed minutes of the meeting that goes out to everybody. So there's alignment on every front. Everybody's eyes are on the end date of that project. And through this whole thing, I think the bottom line of everything is to have meaningful relationships. We try and do that with our contractors, with our clients, which is why a lot of the work that we do are also repeat projects and repeat clients. For us, it's the relationship that's very important. So regardless of which city it is in, our focus is there. That we are happy, you are happy, and we're together proud of the project we're
You
building.
play with a lot of emotions also when you're doing any project, right? Emotions are... I think so for home especially, the emotions is a very, very core part of the whole project. And could be there are a lot of emotions which are involved.
And lots of different
It's
people
just
also,
literally
no?
energy, attitude, really.
And that's what you check, no? You check with the client.
Game one, there, right there. If you are having a nice person to work with, nice team to work with, our team is also like, we make it a point to grill it in their head saying like good energy and attitude is very important. That's the game, like half battle won there only. And then it's about, because you love the client, you will do anything now, right? It's not any longer about money. We did our formalities and everything that is separate. That's why the hard conversation is had first. So all of that is kind of discarded out and you're like, okay, now clean slate, now let's really dive in. And your
Expectations are set, now it's your gameplay.
You know what is the footfalls and like where you'll have like a moment will happen and where all you know that we are there with you. All that discussion is done. So now you have a clean slate. And we've learned to say no. We're not hungry to sign more projects.
How many projects in a year you do?
I think more than that, we should say how much we can sign rather at a time.
We limit it, I think, depending on the life cycle of a project, we can hand over anywhere between six to 8 projects a year. But at any given point of time, very consciously, it's those 10 projects.
Right.
And we try and vary the cycle of those projects also so that there can be creativity on one side while site work is happening elsewhere.
Right.
We only take on as much as we can chew. And that's something, again, we educate the clients with. So there have been lots of cases where clients have waited 2 months, 3 months, if their timelines allow for it. For us, it's about finding that right client and then saying, okay, you know what, actually, if we have to make room for this, let's try and work a little bit extra. Let's hire a little bit more just to make this project work, because the vision that the client has is so beautiful, it touches us, and it can be a really impactful project. So we will go the extra mile, we will burn the midnight lamp if needed, and we'll make a beautiful space happen.
And you don't plan to scale this, because this model, what you mentioned, is you don't want to scale. This is what 10 or 15 projects in a year. You guys are very focused in doing as many projects as possible only.
It depends on your definition of scale, no? If it were up to Shruti and me, we would scale down. Our vision is to do 4 projects at any time.
So
We
it's more
have
passion.
spoken about.
It's again, it's a very
It could
passion.
be scale, no? We could be doing a resort or a whole township in Mexico.
It's like picking up the right size of the whole project. If the value of the project is, say, does your entire thing, so
Yes.
it's a target. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And it's
okay.
still the value add that.
But still, your personal touch should be there. That's the core,
that's
and
what
you
we
choose your
thrive
client.
on, yeah.
No, I understand.
That's what makes us tick.
Yeah, so that's a difference between being a designer or being someone outside designer running a design company like I'm doing. So it's very different in terms of how you look at projects. So we look at in a very different way versus what you guys look in, and that's very interesting to understand. That's why we don't create the most wow designs like how you guys do. There's a certain amount of difference, because I understand the detailing which actually gets into everything what you do. So recently you guys have done for Oorjaa, right? You had done their Bombay stall and Hyderabad, and I think so you had created 2 different concepts. One was more on a jungle theme and one was on a ocean, the whole blue thing and with the whole lights, and it looks like underwater kind of a stuff. So you want to talk more about Oorjaa and how you guys are associated with Purple Turtle?
It's actually been a lovely, lovely experience. I'm riding on a really big high after those 2 events. I think it's been so refreshing because the timeline and the nature of that project is very unlike anything else that we're currently doing. So for us, it's an opportunity to create impact on people, and we're also able to view their reactions in real time, right? The concepts were co-created with Oorjaa's beautiful team, and we worked to identify how you can transport people to a completely different scene, how you can make them feel like they're suddenly underwater if you're talking about ID. And there were so many small nuances that we got into. With a booth design, it becomes so critical to be there 3 days in advance before the show starts. And we have done it all. They've been 5 a.m. nights and 3 a.m. nights. And I'm talking about partners standing on site. I have taken like jhadoed people and jhadoed the floor at the same time, right? It's eating dust, standing, because everyone's booth is being constructed at the same time, and it gives me a high. I love that. Like just going the extra mile to make sure every detail is perfect. So we reached out to different people because we wanted an effect which was not tacky. It was very tastefully done that makes you feel like there are ripples on the ceiling of the booth. And we've reached out to at least 30 people. We've tried to understand projection mapping. Of course, there's a timeline and a budget involved. So there are lots of variables that you needed to kind of stick to. I reached out to somebody whose passion moved me a couple of years ago, and he's sitting out of Calcutta. I reached out to him and said, this is what we're trying to create, and how will you kind of be able to help us with that? Overnight, he has identified a vendor in China who has shipped something to India. It's gone to Calcutta for testing, and it's reached Bombay on time. So the whole impact that we were trying to create has come together so beautifully that our vision, like we were so proud to see our vision come together so nicely. People who came in got to experience what we thought of, and you can see the reaction of 1,000 people. Like when you're designing a house or a school, of course the impact is very, very different. In this case, in a short duration, to make people feel like they're experiencing something they haven't. And at the same time, product is key. They went back saying Oorjaa was wow. Their lights are amazing. So you've created these nuances, but the product is shining.
And you could add value to the whole of their Oorjaa's vision to be showcased at such a large.
Yes, they're doing absolutely beautiful work. They work with sustainable materials. They're promoting a life of living mindfully, consciously, what we're doing to the planet. And we believe in their vision. I think there's so much mutual respect. There's a friendship that's invaluable between their team and us. And that's the kind of relationship that we want to nurture with every client that we have. So designing the booths, and for us it's exactly that, right? Like that booth could have been 15 feet by 20 feet. And on the side we're doing projects which can be 10, 20, 30,000 square feet. But the relationship and the impact that you want to try and create, the feeling that you want to bring to people is really what thrives us. And from when your pencil first touches paper, that's the emotion that you're designing with. Like that's the end product you want. That's the vision you have.
Yeah, but that was all in your mind.
I could see that. I could see
How
that
you were not even involved with, and you're just like a visitor of that place and you experience the same thing.
I could experience.
it.
I was not part of the event, and I saw your updates and stuff, and there was something underwater, and it's all blue, and I could see the reflections what you have created.
And it was
I'm
not just the
this
blue.
needs work because it's not as simple as it looks. It was that underwater kind of a feel. That's what I think. So you had
And
created.
that's like the bang on thing that we wanted you
Yeah.
to feel, not
And
just
I could see
look.
from the pictures itself. I had no idea. I've never visited this stall, and then to the whole contrast is all on the wooden, on the beige, and the jungle thing. What you had guys have done. So the whole who works on the whole concept from you between both of you.
We worked on it together.
You work on it together. So it's a more of a teamwork.
Yeah.
So our partnership, like just to answer your question earlier about how you choose a partner, for example, for us, I think it was not about calling out different verticals or like this you do, this we do, and all of that. I'm sure it helps for people who do that and different backgrounds of people coming together because we are designers and of the same background. For us, it was more about like this stage, let's breathe together because that's why we came together. We're two creative people who like each other's taste. I would maybe bring almost like there are so many times when we're in a situation and somebody must have thrown like a wacky idea, could be the client, and one of his choices would have been a little off. And then the moment then Kavya and I will look at it just saying, you know what we need to do next. So it's now at a point where we don't need to speak
It's mutual.
It's now we can understand saying, I'm sure this is not our style. Like you get it. So you just get it. Like you don't have to explain yourself multiple times. So why not? That's our strength, both of our strengths. So we try to keep that for every project. The conceptualization, brainstorming, design package is done together. In fact, with the team. So because everyone is hired for their creative sense, you're not here for just drafting. That's a clear vision also. And then like we mentioned, we take it separately and then handle that project and manage that project separately. So avoid confusions and then making sure that someone is calling the shot right and they're seeing it through. It was impossible for both partners to be at all times everywhere.
Right. Managing so many cities.
Yeah, and managing so many cities. So even 10 projects, sometimes it's important that at some point we have to divide and then come together and then to just brainstorm and branch of ideas saying, listen, I'm in a pickle right now. What should I do? Have you experienced something? And it was so nice to learn off of each other.
So I think so before 6 years back, having together, that was something we would have changed going back, having had a partner? Or you wanted to learn on your own and then get back to a partner?
No regrets at all. When we started, we had a clear vision that it was something that we individually wanted to do, and we built our practices quite.
And then you got collaborated. That's something amazing. That's a very mature
It's
thing to do, no?
unusual.
It's a very, very mature thing to do too.
I don't know if you can plan for something like this. You can be on
It just
the
happens.
lookout for the right partner, but we have this thing where, sometimes you're at the right place, the timing is right, the person is right, and it kind of
Right.
clicks.
It just happens. And at the right time only it happened.
And you can't rush into that also. I mean, if you're not very sure, if there are a couple of red flags.
You're more matured also, no? Towards
Yes.
both of them at one point, you're more matured towards taking decisions.
But not too mature that, we'll
No,
pull
that's
each
why
other
I-
down.
Yeah.
If it's somebody is...
Ego has not yet grown.
No, exactly. We're still naive. We're soft, and there are lots of times where we agree to disagree. Or we say, you know what, your idea is really nice, let's run with it. Or you're so excited about something like Oorjaa. I spent weekends working on it because I couldn't sleep. It just, on Sundays I was thinking about it.
Could your social media page sleep with those updates? I was seeing those updates. I could see the whole process going through, and your involvement towards doing that was so much there on the social media.
Yeah, and just working late hours on some of these things. Like 11 o'clock, you're in bed in the night and you can't sleep because you're so excited to wake up the next day and kind of sketch something, right? So a lot of that happens maybe when you don't have calls to answer, you're not answering to the team. So sometimes weekends there are some of these ideas and it's exactly what happened with Oorjaa. When we imagined like the water lilies installation is one of my favorite installations there, and we said as soon as you go in, just that vista is just so charming. People need to enter and look at this majestic but very dainty thing floating above your head. And because they were such an exceptional team, that execution has been flawless. So it's been a win-win on both parts.
Right.
So
How do you stay relevant in terms of design trends? So if being a non-designer, for example, or probably a very nascent designer who just started off, they want to stay in trend in terms of what's trending abroad, what is trending in India. So how do you stay relevant, and how do you know that this is what trending and this is what there is always a design curve, like concretes are very in, clean lines are very in, minimalism is very in. So how do you stay relevant in design?
we don't.
You don't?
No, at Roo it's not about the trends at all. It's about
Creating one, I think.
timelessness.
Always, you
Just
create your own thing.
Spaces that age gracefully. and spaces that can feel timeless. So 5 years later, you're not bored or you don't regret a decision. Maybe you chose to lay an in situ red terrazzo floor, and 5 years later it feels all too bold for you. It's very hard to change the flooring.
Right, right.
So being mindful and again educating the client, saying this is a trend. Let's do what is right for the project.
Right.
You are there, you show them the mirror at all times and say, you try and nudge them in the right direction at all times. So it's not really about a trend, it's about what do you really want to feel in that space and how can we make you feel that level of comfort we were talking about, or that emotion that you want to feel.
That comes more of passion. So I mean, if people are not passionate, I mean, I'm saying people who are not as creative or has not seen design as you evolved as a personality, and they are not like a creative person running a company, then for them, if they want to stay relevant, at least stay relevant on what's trending, and you're not like, so what do you think should be?
There's so many documentaries, podcasts, there's so many visuals available on Instagram, Pinterest. There are so many trade fairs that are happening across the world. It's important to kind of be aware of what is happening around you and then being true to yourself and true to the project.
Perfect. Great. One last few questions. I met you when I reached out to you for another friend's project, and you had waiting for 8 months. And you had mentioned one thing very nicely, that you don't, in your firm, you don't have any kickbacks. You do business in a very clean way, which very few interior architecture firms do. So, how I would like to know more on why. I mean, it's a great thing. We also follow the same thing, and thanks to you, and I also follow the same rule. So, how do you think that is very, very, very much required for the clients and for yourself, for the company?
That's so nice to hear that I've had that little influence maybe on you. But I think we were very clear right from the beginning that whatever we ask of the client, let's say we're charging them X, uske upar, we don't need to make money, go behind somebody's backs. Because at the end of the day, I think it's important for us that we sleep with a clear conscience. And there are reasons that if people are taking commissions, they have their reasons. Maybe a client has negotiated you down so badly and you're still very hungry to do that project, and then people have other approaches to make that money back. But I think with Roo, we've been blessed enough to have clients who understand what we bring to the table and are willing to pay a fair price to it. We value things like honesty and respect so much that we're upfront to you in the beginning and tell you that this is the kind of effort and time that's going to go into a project like this. This is the fair fee, you pay for it. Once this is clear, I don't have the need to take money from any other brand in the market. And what that allows us to do is not push for only 5 brands and feel dejected if the client picks their own brand. Right. We're very open and welcoming to say that whoever's work is really the best, we will pick that vendor. Whoever brings the right integrity, the right attitude to the table, whoever's service is exceptional. So we're able to choose people that will benefit the project, not for our benefit.
For the client's benefit.
For the project's benefit.
Right.
So we're not swayed by any other direction.
And how do you pass it on to your guys? So I understand with you partners having that whole policy, but then again, passing on to your employees or to people who are associated with you. So that's something which is very much required, because by far the client knows Studio Roo as a brand, and to keep the whole brand relevant, your guys also should have the same ethics and the policy within the organization.
I want to believe that as much as we're mentors to the team, we're also in some sense like family or like friends within the organization. These conversations are had openly at the time of the interview before we onboard somebody. Right. So we want to understand that you bring great energy to the table. We want to understand that, we want you to know that we're always going to be here for you. And we expect that in return. There are, it could be like the simplest of times where, let's say somebody is struggling with something personal and I can reach out to a teammate and say, I'm going through this, and vice versa, they can do that to us. So there is a lot of transparency within the organization as well, and especially about commissions, we've been quite clear from the beginning that we don't want to embark on a process where we're letting somebody down. Usko pata chalega to kaisa hoga. It can be, a lot of this is so much part of the learning, right? So there could be times on site where maybe you thought something works, but once it was done, you feel like you can enhance it a little bit more. So you're open and upfront on addressing that, admitting it to a client and saying, you know what, let's do it a little bit differently.
And you're more open towards the contractor also. You can guide and tell him that this is wrong or this is right, because
Yes.
again, it's a much more cleaner way. It's more of a PMC kind of a format
Yes.
where you are on the other side and you want this to be done.
Yes.
Otherwise,
So no one can have leverage over us.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I
Or
agree
we
with
don't
this.
have
I
leverage
agree
over
with
anybody.
agree
So
with
nobody
that.
can, like, if I have to ask you a question, I will look into your eye and I ask you,
Yeah,
why
yeah,
did you not
yeah.
give him a service?
And you don't have to-
I trusted you. Like the way he would ask us, that I trusted your advice and I went to that guy. I will also look into your eye and I'm like, why did you not give your right service? Because that's what our relationship was about. You have come to Roo, you want to work with Roo, you have to service everybody at Roo.
Right, right.
That's the win for us. You giving me money as a kickback or a commission is not going to get us far. Your service, if you want to keep a long-term relationship with anyone at Roo, is to give them, you make an exception saying, agar Studio Roo ka client aaya hai, you give them a mind-blowing service.
Right.
They need to be impressed by you. That's all that we want, to create that team of paneled community for Roo, especially as we grow. Like these are the things that we want to scale in. Have
These are
a
your
team
value
of
system. It's
yeah,
a
a
very
team of
strong value
contractors who can share the same vision, of vendors who can share the same vision, because then you're our top three.
And it's much more cleaner way, and the whole industry.
Because imagine I'm your referral to that client, and you're a vendor, and I'm your referral to that client, and I'm like, आप मेरे भरोसे उनका काम करवाइए, उनसे काम करवाइए. I guarantee they will not let you down.
Right, right.
This comes to me because you've done that for me. We have that trust in each other, and you will not, leave
I
me
think
in
that
the
there's
dark.
very much required in our industry. I mean, it's a domino effect. It's a great way. I mean, should entire industry should
Like
work out
I'm
that way.
willing to do anything for you, even if you're just a vendor or a contractor to me. We've remembered helping like families and things like that, even though you're like a labor outside. But our relationship is not about that.
You work back
तुम हो मेरे लिए
Which what I understand with the whole conversation with the client relationship, vendor
Yes,
relationship,
and
PMC,
for
everything
any
works in.
project, we are there to negotiate for the client and say,
Yeah,
you know
you
what,
go.
if there is a commission model involved that the brand normally does, where they're saying 15%, 20%,
Pass it on to the client.
please, and pass
And
more
that
of
honesty
to the
pays
client.
more
Yes.
for some reason.
They reached out to me in Bombay, especially when we had gone, and they offered me a couple of times and a couple of projects. I'm like, you do one thing, please pass it on to the client. Client will be very happy. You know, he'll save his money.
Everybody's hard-earned money.
Yeah, it's everyone's hard
And
money.
they've
And the
come
energy is
to-
there, no? Somewhere on the whole
Yeah.
project, and the energy is there.
We have valued ourselves
That's
saying,
important.
हमको लगता है this is our fair price. And we ask for you, looking in your eyes, we are saying this is our fair price. We know what we bring to the table. We'll educate you about it in the beginning of what all we can do. I honestly don't know if you're different or not from what other people are doing. We know what we do. And that's our benchmark.
And that's very inspiring.
And
Very
then
inspiring.
that-
Very people take it, and I mean, I wish the entire industry does that. What do you guys follow? And
They can do that if clients pay them fairly. I think that's sometimes to educate the client.
charge it rightly, you know.
Correct.
Also be willing to work that much more. It's like Kavya was saying, there are days and nights at handover stages, we are there 48 hours and we are like, I'm so sorry, we're going to barge into your house, but that's how it is.
Right.
We want to set up, we want to be the best housewarming ceremony for you and everybody will love you. Just those energies because it's a housewarming.
Right.
You need the good energy in your house. We are there 2 days before working, scrubbing everything. There is no ego involved. That guy is poor thing, having his own pressure of like, I don't know where to go, what to do last minute and things like that. And if you just helped him in those difficult times and like, fixing things, we've gone for like, let's design your decor, like housewarming decor. We'll suggest you, we'll give you ideas. This is nothing, no part of the contract. All of us just doing, nobody's written saying 5 baje kaam nahi karenge. Why? Project needs it, I need it. I want to make sure this client's happy. That's all. There have been, even because of all of this, the side effect of all of this, like they'll still call you saying my gas burner is not blue color, why is it green color? And you're calling the gas company for them. And my tornado flush is not happening, so you're calling the sanitary wire vendor for them. So these are the things that you should be willing to do. That is important to keep any relationship in life, like your life partner, your parents, anybody. You have to be willing to go a little extra mile. And that's why we're only able to do so much, but do it right.
And Kavya, I think so when I reached out to you, when you were busy at that point, one beautiful thing what you had done is you had sent me 10 references of designers. I mean, Mira Designs was one of them, and there were a couple of other. I also reached out to you. I feel that you have the thing of giving more in terms of you don't feel the designers as competition, and very few firms practice the same, is what you understand. What's the story behind that? Why do you think this is great for the industry, or you think it's more healthy, or it's your nature?
Both. I think
Everything.
it is, it's part of my nature, part of my upbringing, I think. But also, I don't look at other designers as competitors. They're all friends that I'm very proud of. So if I were able to do a project and I believe that this is a genuinely nice inquiry, I'm always happy to go the extra mile. And it doesn't end at just giving a few references. Even after that, whoever you're working with, you need a contact, a vendor, you want me to make an introduction to somebody, pick up the phone and call. Like, that I'm here for you. Even if we couldn't have the opportunity to work together that one time so many years ago, I believe that it hasn't stopped you from, let's say you want to do a space of your own today, or there's another reference you'd like to bring 2 years later and you think they could be a good fit for us and we could be a good fit for them. I don't think you will hesitate to do that, because you will remember that at some point, yes, we couldn't work together, but there was help offered in other ways. It benefited you, it benefited my friend, it boosted design in general. It was still a celebration of design in general, and none of this is a competition. Tomorrow, you don't know how some of these paybacks kind of happen to you, and that's not
karma, no?
It's
Karma.
Yeah.
Karma. I also believe a lot in karma.
But some of this
and it really helps the client also. To be very honest, client chose one of the reference what you had given, and what happens with the client also, if they are hellbound in one design, they got hold of 10 more designers, which we never knew. We would have not have researched so much in bringing on a list of 10. So imagine 1 to 10. So one of the 10 designers is something which is always there in our mind.
Right.
And that's excellent for the entire industry what you are benefiting, right? Because as a practice, you are helping the client, the designers, and I mean it's a very healthy way. And not a lot of people think, and I also feel we are 150 crore population. So I think that there's work for everyone. There's work for everyone. Like we are a very small pocket of what the entire India by a country could offer. So that's a very good. Last question: if you had a big billboard outside your office and you had to give a big message to the entire world, what would that message be? I want you to answer it individually.
Build meaningful relationships.
Build meaningful relationships. Right. And how about you?
I think what I want to shout and tell the world is to be authentic. It's hard, but it's right. Just try to be authentic as much. In what you want, in what you aspire to be, in whatever way it is, just try to be authentic about it. Don't try to follow something just because that looks cool today. So if you just a little bit deep dive and you know that you're not that kind of a person, but you're aspiring it to be at least be honest and authentic about that. There's no harm in admitting that you're a certain way. You're your unique self. There's no one else like you, right? So just try to be that. Celebrate that.
Right.
So
that's quite nice. I think so. Studio Review follows a lot of value system, a lot of relationship. I think so goes into this, and that's very hard. These two are the most hardest things. Like one of the most hardest things. It's a right thing, and thanks a lot, guys. I really enjoyed this whole conversation, where there's a lot of learning for me and a lot of people who are watching this. And thanks a lot.
We enjoyed it so much ourselves. We were really looking forward to it, and I think you've curated the questions so beautifully. I really hope it helps a lot of designers who are watching this. And if anybody else has follow-up questions, they can always write to us. We're here to help and mentor. We know a little bit, there's a lot more that we still have to learn, but if there's any way that we can add value to anybody else's practice, we're very happy to do so.
And what is the best way to reach out to you guys?
You can send us an email on info@studioroo.in, or you can write to us on social media.
All right, perfect. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
very, very nice to meet you.
Perfect. Thank you.